Office managers in
Hi.
place.
Maybe it's not high. Maybe that's where I want it.
There's more room than you.
I prefer it that way.
Going out. All right, going out. If you're going out before we start here, we have the animal kingdom here. We got the kitten wants in. Yes.
Where are you going?
Right, decisions need to be made here.
Okay.
All right, thanks. All right, let me start recording Zencastr, and once I start recording Zencastr, I'm just going to jump into it. Okay?
All right.
All right.
Don't mess the intro up.
This is Eric Van Johnson, and you're listening to PHP Ugly. I'm here with John Condon and Tom Rideout, or John Rideout and Tom Condon. I
Tom
forget.
Condon here.
The intro gets worse and worse every week.
You liked it that 1 week. All right.
Yeah, it
So
was like
question, Tom and John. In 1941, Joe DiMaggio of the New York Yankees hit in the longest consecutive streak of games where he got a base hit, where he got a hit. Do you know how many consecutive games he hit in?
6.
200.
I try to make this easy for you. No, 56, because this is episode 56. Joe DiMaggio hit in 56 consecutive games.
You didn't hear me say
41.
Ah.
Man, I try to set you guys up, try to make it as easy as possible. You guys are
It's
killing
gonna
me.
it's gonna be an every week thing, some sort of baseball theme to the number.
It's gonna be a number. I think I'm gonna have to do a number thing every week. I like coming up with interesting facts about numbers. So
Problem is, you probably spent 5 hours looking for that today.
hey, you paid me for it, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, the problem is that he probably didn't spend any time on that and just knows it off the top of his head. It's just filling space in his brain that could be used on useful things.
Speaking of numbers, April 1st, we recorded our last show on April 1st, and we didn't even make mention of the fact that it was April 1st because we had recorded late. But did anybody come across anything creative as far as April 1st goes?
Nope.
Negative.
Yeah, I saw a couple things. There was a announcement of what's new to Alexa, and what was new
Oh, yeah.
to Alexa
Pet-
was
Pet
that it could
Alexa.
understand. What was that?
Pet Alexa.
Yeah, where it could understand your pets. So I thought that was cute, but it was pretty obvious. So it's Google's was pretty obvious too for their Google Home. They had now Google Gnome, so it was Google Home for outside.
They had the Miss Pac-Man maps.
You know, that's always there though.
Yeah, but it came up like front and center when you pulled up a map.
Yeah, the wife saw that. She goes, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's like an Easter egg that's always on maps. I don't know why it's there today." And then I realized, oh, okay, it's April 1st. It's pretty cool though.
I haven't seen that one at all.
Yeah, I forget how you get to it. I'll find it and send it to you. But
I discourage April Fools in my house. My kids don't have a good enough sense of humor to properly pull it off. So they just end up doing something horrible to each other. Shaving cream in my wife's shoe one year was a bit of a problem.
But see, that's not April Fool's. That's just flat out a prank.
Yeah, and it wasn't supposed to be her shoes. It's just that my son couldn't identify shoes. It was supposed to be his sister's shoes. But my favorite prank was when my parents went to sleep one year, I took newspaper and I taped it over the door frame in their room. So when they opened their door, it was just a wall of newspaper in front of them.
What is wrong with you?
Again, not an April Fool's, more of a prank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
I'm
whatever.
not a fan of April Fools.
Me either.
What have you guys been up to this week then? Since that totally flopped.
More of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the same stuff as last week. Doing a homepage rewrite and doing.
Did you get your database stuff figured out yet? Is it finished?
No, not yet. The script is finished, but we haven't, mustered up the bravado to actually run it. I think that's supposed to happen Friday.
Why not? Let's do it on Friday. That makes the most sense.
Yeah. You know my
You know-
history with
Friday releases.
my employer really likes doing releases on Friday, no matter how much I protest.
It just sounds like you're asking for trouble.
It really does.
It really is.
I try to not even work on Fridays.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
Yeah, you just
Everybody
don't work. You don't screw up your weekend if you don't work.
How's my
Everybody
video
hates
quality
Mondays,
today, guys?
You're what?
Yeah,
How's my video quality? Is it better than usual?
no. It's still
You're
pretty
just as
pixelated.
ugly as possible. Not sure you could get
I
uglier.
I spent a couple hours this week getting my router to support smart queuing service, basically an advanced version of quality of service packet filtering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all I ended up doing was just lowering my bandwidth.
You need to spend a couple more hours there.
Yeah, it does tweaking still.
So Thomas,
Yes, sir.
I'd gotten a little addicted to watching Overwatch videos. I even had like gamers I would follow and watch. I think
Yeah,
I
which is
finally
weird.
I've got a new habit now. Battlegrounds. Have you seen Battlegrounds?
No. Is that the one where everyone uses swords and maces and stuff?
No. This is like you get dropped on this island and you have to find guns, then kill everybody else on the island. It's crazy and it's so addictive to watch. It's kind of boring because it's the same game over and over where they're hunting you hunt for guns, then you get certain like helmets so that people can't headshot you, and you get certain gear to protect you, but you never know what you're going to get. You've got to go into these houses and in sheds, and you just find whatever you find like around. You don't even know what gun you're going to get, or if you're even going to get a gun. And it's like everybody parachutes into the island. You can go to any area of the island you want. So like people will go to the edges where other people aren't. There becomes a mad dash to loot stuff. And you try to quickly find a gun because that's what's going to protect you. And then as the game proceeds, this gas cloud starts to wrangle everybody to a certain area, and you never know where it's going to be. Like it's always a different part of the island. So the circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually, like 99 people parachute in, and it's not over till there's like one man standing. And
Now, you know that this is a whole genre called
Yeah.
Hunger Games.
oh, I didn't know it's called Hunger Games, but I know there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of games like this.
It was actually created first on Minecraft servers.
Hmm.
So you're watching a very advanced form of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Why not actually play the game instead of watch it?
No, I don't got
Well,
time to play the game.
You'd have to have a computer that can do that, which he doesn't.
I got into Paladins a little bit, and I fortunately, when I went on the cruise, I broke myself from Paladins, and I haven't revisited it. So I'm pretty happy about that. I get so hooked. I was like a Team Fortress maniac for the longest time, where I was putting hours and hours into Team Fortress that I'll never get back. I get too addicted to the games. I get totally immersion into it, and I lose track of time and space, and I can't play
Switching in
games.
VR.
No. I've got to not. I'd much rather do something productive like code. Speaking of coding, I've been playing around with something for a while. So a while back, one of our clients needed an IVR, which is you call in and it's one of these voice prompt things where it says, "Hey, hit 1 to do this." We've talked about this in the past.
Sure.
And when I first did it, I actually didn't want to create an application. I found some documentation online of people who are building these, and even the service we use, Twilio, had a tutorial on how to build it using how to build it using Amazon's Lambda service. And so, yeah, you paused, dude.
Thought I did.
You totally didn't. And what's so funny is now it's even so much louder. It's like a whistle. Maybe there's a delay. Like do it like you just think you did it.
No, I thought I did it because I was on the wrong screen.
Again.
Keep telling me that.
Again, yeah. No, because I'm using Synergy, which
Yeah.
I have something to say about Synergy once you're done with your story.
Okay. I got a synergy story for you as well. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about it or not, but I will for you, Thomas.
Aw.
Okay, I'll let you edit this back. I'll try to recap so that you can make this sound okay. So sometime back, we had a client who needed an IVR, and we talked about this in the past. But the IVR is one of these prompt-led. Press 1 to go here. Press 2 to do this. And I didn't want to build a separate application for this. So the service we were using was Twilio, which is a very popular service for this type of stuff, and a bunch of other messaging sort of things. And Twilio had a tutorial on there about how to build the service using the Amazon Lambda service, which is this serverless service that they offer. That's saying the word service an awful lot, but there's no server to manage. I mean, it's kind of like a Heroku where all you do is build the app and then you just deploy it, but it's even a little further abstracted from there because you're really very limited. Currently, you can only do, for the longest time, you can only do a Node app. Now I think you can do, or now I know you can do Python. But I've been fascinated with this. So I tried to build this IVR using the Lambda service. And if you know how Amazon and permissions work, and you had to leverage this API gateway that they had just released, and everything just wasn't coming together for me. And I got frustrated after a couple of days of trying to do it, and I ended up, really building it in like a couple of days using Laravel. But I had to host that on the server, so now I'm managing the server and all this. But I continue to be fascinated with this idea of building applications and not having to manage the server. So I had been following this for a while, and this framework had bubbled up around Python for it. And I looked into it. This happened a couple weeks back. I looked into it, and it was very complex. I'm like, oh my God, this is so freaking confusing. I can't get this. And keeping in mind, again, it's Python, it's not PHP. And then today I discovered that Amazon themselves had developed a framework, a Python framework to create these Lambda applications and deploy them. And I had the Lambda application up and running in like 30 seconds. It was awesome.
Now,
So
last week you were complaining about the Stack Overflow survey having way too much Python.
Yep, I agree. And I would love to know who I need to talk to champion the idea of having PHP on this Lambda service. Because I think with Composer now, because I can understand initially why that would have been difficult, but now the way PHP uses Composer and the fact that there are these great micro frameworks like Lumen or Silex is the Symfony one, I would love to see AWS offer a PHP Lambda service, either using one of these micro frameworks or if they want to develop their own. I really can't think of a good reason why they couldn't do it. So if anybody listening to the podcast knows who I need to call, send me their number. I'll call them and ask them.
Will you please support PHP? So this application you got up and running, was it just a demo app that you built, or just their demo app and you didn't really customize it at all?
No. Well, it was their tutorial, and it was just basically a hello world. But the way I'm thinking about leveraging it, you would be interested in hearing, John, is because we actually created a Lumen application within Diego Dev that all it does is simulate endpoints for us. And we thought about using a service for it, but it was just too much overhead. So it just seemed easier to kick out these Lumen endpoints whenever we were developing APIs, and we needed just to create the endpoints so somebody else could test something while we were building the actual application. But again, same problem, right? I'm hosting that on a web server. I'm having to manage the web server. I would love to be able to kick out these endpoints as a Lambda service, and just have the guys deploy it to the Lambda service and just be these dummy API endpoints. So that's one thing I'm thinking about using it for. But I need to brush up on some Python and see how creative I can get with this. So
Sounds like a waste of time.
You're a waste of time.
You mentioned Composer, but Symfony is talking about not using Composer now. Have you seen this?
No, what are you talking about?
So Fabien Potentier posted an article about using a new system for creating Symfony skeleton applications called Symfony Flex.
But that's not necessarily getting away from Composer, is it? That's just a way to grab all of your Symfony packages you need.
It's getting away from Composer for dependencies and libraries in Symfony applications.
I thought Symfony Flex, and I haven't read any article or anything. I've just been hearing talks about it, but I thought my understanding of Symfony Flex was just, like John said, to basically define your base Symfony application. You can either like be a skeleton app with no components, or you can tailor it to be APIs. You can tailor it to have a front end. But it was just kind of a kickstart to that base install. But I was under the impression it was still being driven by Composer. But you're saying it isn't?
Not that I can tell. Now, he hasn't finished his series of articles about this, but he is starting to go into detail about this idea of a bundle-less application. So I'm interested. I really don't know anything about it beyond what he's written so far, which is that this is going to be a thing for Symfony 4. But we'll have to keep ourselves apprised of the situation.
Yeah, see, my understanding of Symfony is it's not like Laravel, where you just do a Laravel new and you always have the same starting point with every application. My understanding of Symfony is that it's very component driven, and we have people within the SDPHP user group. I remember talking about previous versions of Symfony where they said the first thing they did was start ripping out all the excess stuff that they knew they weren't going to use. They'd start ripping it out of the code base so that they could shrink their repo down. When I heard about this, I thought that this was to address that. I still think this is to address that, but I don't think
this is to create bundles.
Yeah, I don't think this is getting away from Composer by any means.
Well, he makes it clear in his first article that he doesn't like the way Composer works. It's too much for what Symfony needs. It's too difficult.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
That's
think
interesting.
because each bundle can be different. So once the bundle is created, I think with Composer, you have to know all the packages you need. Where once this bundle is created, you can say, "Hey, I want this bundle," and you get everything you want in one shot, right?
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, you're still gonna have third-party packages that are gonna use Composer.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though, is they don't have to use Composer. Composer right now connects to Packagist and does all its name resolution through that, but it could very easily, we could see a more tailored and managed version of Composer coming up. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with where Composer is, but yeah.
Hey, I got a funny email today, guys.
What's that?
So I mentioned a while back about YouTube TV,
Mm-hmm.
their whole competitive service, and it is a local service, so you have to have support in your area for it. So I signed up to be notified when it was available in my area, and I got an email today from YouTube Television.
Yeah.
You know what it said?
It's not available in your area yet.
Yeah, thanks for your interest. It's still not available.
But
Yeah.
it's rolled out.
Why did they bother?
Well, because they knew you're going to hear in the news how it's been rolled out, and you're going to be like, "Hey, where's mine?"
It took me like 3 times reading it to realize they were sending me a rejection letter.
I'm sure hoping it comes to San Diego before it comes to wherever you're
Colorado.
Colorado Springs. Thanks.
Colorado Springs is too small.
Well, we just passed legislation for $300 million in internet infrastructure.
Hey, you want to hear some paranoid doom and gloom?
Oh, I'd love from you.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm excited.
So last year, I got a truck, not a new truck. It was a used truck, but it was new to me. It's fairly new, and I bought it from a pretty reputable used car dealer. Right? I think it's nationwide called CarMax. Right? So they're pretty high quality stuff. And with the truck, I got a certain amount of time of Sirius satellite radio. And of course, I let that time run out. And right when I was coming to the end of my trial, I was doing a lot of traveling between San Diego and Arizona. So I don't listen to the radio very often, but I did like the fact that when I did listen to satellite radio, there were no commercials, and I did like the fact that I could listen to baseball and football games between San Diego and Arizona. So I'm like, hey, I'm doing all this traveling back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and treat myself to this subscription. But that crap is expensive. So I had only signed up for 6 months or something. I forget what it was. So it was some random amount. And I did use it when I was driving back and forth. I listened to some ball games. I listened to some radio. But for the most part, I listened to my phone. Like I have music on my phone, or I'm listening to podcasts, and I have Bluetooth stereo system. So I just listen to that most of the time. So when I'm not traveling, and the fact that I work from home as well, I'm not in the truck very often. I forget. I don't use it, and I ended up renewing it because it was on this auto renew. I ended up renewing it when I didn't mean to. So I'm like, oh, damn it, whatever. And well, that card had expired. So I started getting notifications from Sirius. This is getting long, I apologize. But I started getting notifications saying, hey, act now because your card's expired and we'll have to cancel your account. I'm like,
hold on.
What?
I know what you're going to say. You didn't update the card. It updated itself.
Negative. So
Damn.
I'm like, I don't use the service, and I actually just was ignoring the emails because I'm like, I don't use the service, cancel the service. Well, I get a phone call from them, and they said, hey, there's an outstanding balance on your account. I'm like, I don't use your service. I've been getting emails saying that the card is expired and you're going to cancel the account. Cancel the account. She goes, oh, well, there's an outstanding balance. I'm like, how can there be an outstanding balance? You pay for the stuff in advance. I was like, I'm not paying you. Cancel the account. And this happened a couple of weeks back. So yesterday, I'm in the truck with my wife, and my wife had driven my truck before me, and she had turned on the satellite radio. So I get in the truck and I'm driving. I'm like, the satellite radio is still playing? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, I told them to cancel that. I'm not paying them for this, and our account's expired, so they shouldn't be playing anymore. I am not exaggerating. Like 5 minutes later, it turned off. My wife had been listening to it all the day. The previous day, she listened to it all day long. We'd been in the truck for like 30 minutes. And as soon as I said something, 5 minutes later, it turned off. And then right after that, I get an email saying, hey, we've disconnected your satellite radio until you pay us. I'm like, wow, that was like some crazy, bizarre timing, man. I thought about you when that happened, Thomas.
Thank you. This is why I'm starting my new line of tinfoil lined hats.
I'm telling you, I think I needed it.
The goal is not to stop them from reading your thoughts. The goal is just to set your mind at ease that yes, it was a coincidence.
That's the weirdest thing. All right, I've rambled on way too long here, and we've got a ton of stuff to get through.
The listeners.
So I don't really care. I don't care what you guys have been up to this week. We're moving on.
Alrighty. Sounds good. So, Thomas, I don't know if you've seen Teamwork, but we've been using that a lot lately for our projects. And
I have not. I have not seen this.
It's great because we get to invite our clients into it. They can see the tasks. They can create new tasks for us, but only in their project, not, it kind of keeps things segregated that way. And
so there's one thing about being a consulting group is we get exposure to a lot of these project management software solutions. And John and I have churned and burned through a lot of these. And Teamworks was the first one that we were kind of like, all right, this looks like he's got some features. We pay for it. I mean, it's not a free service. There might be a free tier. I'm not even sure about that, but it's a service we pay for.
Yeah. So I think it was just this week they released Board Views, which is actually Trello within Teamwork.
If I didn't know better, I would have assumed they bought Trello because it looks just like Trello. I mean, exactly like Trello.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You create lists, you move them back and forth. And we've liked using Trello for some of our projects, but Teamwork has more features. And now that they have this new board view, we're so happy with it.
Yeah. And what's really cool about it is, you create to-do lists. So you have your traditional to-do list, and you switch over to board view, and all your to-do lists are now cards that you can drag over. It's really, really, really done well. Probably one of the better implementations that I've seen. How seamless they've made it with the rest of their platform.
Now, Trello did get purchased. We covered that a while back. Trello got purchased by Atlassian. Atlassian,
yeah, the Jira, Bitbucket people, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So Teamworks, definitely high praise to Teamworks.com. I hate the fact that it's called Teamwork, because if you try to Google anything in Teamwork create card, Teamwork this, it brings up everything but the damn product. But it's Teamwork.com, and great service. Pretty much all the bells and whistles that you expect out of a PM system. It's just something about the ease of implementation. It was one of the thing that drew me to it. It was one of the few PM systems where you could create a task and actually assign multiple people to that task. And tasks could have dependencies on other tasks that you could define. It was nice. It is nice. We enjoy using it. I actually miss it on the couple of projects that we work on where a client has their own PM system and they don't leverage ours.
We'd also like to thank them for sponsoring our podcast this week.
Teamwork.com for all your teamwork needs. All right, so we got a bunch of Laravel news. I'm going to rapid fire a lot of this stuff because there's not a lot of content around some of it.
I'm upset that you put this first item on here at all.
Why?
Because the news is there's going to be news tomorrow.
Well, but it's like a breaking news thing. Like no other podcast is going to be able to talk about nothing. Like something's going to happen, and we're
talk about nothing every week.
If you really need breaking news, we just launched $60 million worth of missiles at Syria.
Hey, you slow down, Mr. Doom and Gloom. We've got
Gloom is at the end of the show.
Okay, so yes, Taylor tweeted at the end of the day today. April 6th, is it? I don't have my glasses on. It feels about right. April 6th. Taylor tweeted, have some pretty cool front-end stuff to announce tomorrow. And that's all he says. Sleep well. Bastard. Sleep well. You sleep well.
But he does this to us all the time. It's not usually mind-blowing.
This is true.
You're a sucker for posting it.
You're a sucker for listening to me.
You're playing the
sucker. Edit it out, Mr. Editor. Oh, I do want to take a moment to give you the tip of the hat.
Thank you.
Very impressed with your editing prowess.
I think it took me 3 hours.
Hey, it's better than I think the first time I edited the show, probably the first couple of shows I edited, it took me like 2 days. I mean, a solid 6 hours plus, and they were horrible. Like I go back and listen to our first couple of shows, and I cringe. I'm like, oh God, that's terrible. So what you did is you did fantastic. I felt it was great work.
I agree. It's one of the first ones I've listened to.
I can tell you, it is absolutely the first one I've listened to.
We're just trying to dig at Eric a little bit.
All right, so continuing on with the Taylor posts, and I'm bringing this one up for a reason. I think it was yesterday he posted this, or it might have been the day before. But he goes, he says I'm sure he meant in the past 2 months, my position. I'm not quoting because I'm
okay. Start over. Just say you're paraphrasing.
All right. Thank you. And another post from Taylor that I think he posted a couple days ago. It might have been yesterday. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, but he says, in the past 2 months, my position on Docker has gone from don't know anything about it to I have no comment on that right now. Now, the reason I'm putting this out there is because you guys know I'm kind of a fan of Docker. Matter of fact, I'm kind of revisiting Docker for our development environment. I stopped using Homestead for my development for a while. I still have to fire it up for some very specific configurations that I always knew I was going to have to do that. And I really want to readdress that again in Docker because I had really made a lot of progress when I tried to implement Docker before. And I still think it's the best solution for our developers to quickly spin up a development environment because we have, for one of our clients, we have a very complex development environment, which includes a bunch of microservices, a bunch of different data stores. So I still feel like it's the better solution. But it was interesting for him to see that. And of course, now every time he posts a tweet, everybody references a previous tweet where he showed a logo for Horizon. And they're like, oh, what's on the horizon? And I'm like, fuck, are they doing something with Docker here? What's the story? So I thought that was an interesting tweet from him. I'm really curious. Now, there is a very established kind of Laravel-backed Docker configuration. I forget. I think it's called Laradoc or something like that. It's one I've used in the past. It's one I keep kind of going to where they kind of have all the components you could possibly want as a web developer, not necessarily even a Laravel developer. I mean, they have their configuration includes Nginx, includes Apache, includes MySQL, Postgres. I mean, Redis. It's just about every component you could possibly want as a web developer. They have included in this repo. And Taylor has even called them out and said, no, they do a great job with a Docker implementation. I don't see any reason to go down that route, but there seems to be a lot.
That's shouting out.
Hmm?
That's not calling out. He didn't call him out. Go on.
Okay.
I'm afraid there's not gonna be enough editing work in this episode, so
He's just gonna, you know,
Screeching brakes.
yeah, no, I just shit on it every once in a while.
put that in the background a few hundred times.
Don, can you cough for me?
What are you talking about?
Just trying to pick up levels. If you can give me a good cough.
And hold your testicles when you do it, please.
Yeah. Turn your head into the mic. Anyway.
So there seems to be a lot of hinting around. I submitted a pull request to Valet to do some stuff, and some of the feedback I kind of got on it was, yeah, I know something about this. Like, maybe they knew that Valet was going to start to take a backseat to another solution. Maybe that solution leverages Docker on some level. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. My interest is perked on what this Horizon project is.
Now, I'm very happy with Homestead. I told you guys last week that I had a hard drive failure and lost my complete OS.
Mm-hmm.
All my checked out Git stuff. I lost everything, and Homestead was one of the easiest things to get back up and running, and I managed to get my whole system, my whole dev environment, rebuilt in just under an hour, including installing Ubuntu.
Yeah, and it's Homestead, right? I mean, we call it Homestead, but it's a virtual machine. It's a virtual image. It's pretty straightforward. There's some nice configuration. I don't have a problem with Homestead, so to speak. I mean, the issue that previously was that I found myself, I was always running that virtual image on my desktop. Now, I've actually since upgraded the RAM, but it's just I didn't need that. I didn't need an entire virtual image running. And it was still just one virtual machine. So you could spin up multiple virtual machines or multiple instances of Homestead and play around with the ports if you want to. Whatever. But yeah, I like Homestead for what it is, and for for simpler development work like what you do, Thomas, it's probably fine. But when you get up with the big boys and do complex stuff,
the big deals.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you guys started using Laravel 5.4 yet?
I have, and I started using the components and the new. Matter of fact, I was just telling John, I created a whole new login system that requires email verification before it created an account for you. So I used a lot of the new email features in Laravel 5.4.
So one of the big things about 5.4 email is mailables. Mail used to be this sort of weird multiple closure thing in Laravel, and now it's just a view. It's a data view, populate, send.
Right.
So taking that concept, 5.5 has added theming to mailables. So now you can have whole themes that you apply to your email communications.
I can see that. I mean, again, we have a client who has multiple clients, and each one of those clients could very easily request their own theme to the email. I can see that being handy.
It would make some things nice if you were supporting a larger number of sites. If you just had your standard communications,
Mhm.
such as forgotten password and things like that.
Yeah.
My only issue with it is I haven't even gotten to 5.4 yet. I'm still doing the migration for that. It's pretty much done, but it's a large production system. We don't want to just push something out that hasn't had 100 hours of testing on it.
Yeah. Let me know how that Webpack migration goes for you.
Oh God, I haven't even thought about that.
Oh yeah, you better think about that one, buddy.
Just the testing migration was a pain because Dusk took over for the old testing environment. So all of your tests fail out of the box because the package doesn't exist that it used to run on.
So here's a question for you, Thomas. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
I had a question for Thomas first. So you bring up putting 100 hours on it for testing. Do you have any sort of like beta server where you push a handful of your clients and then slowly ramp up that percentage?
Right now we don't have A/B testing servers. We just have a staging server, and then we have the world's most detail-oriented project managers that review the staging system. So, I mean, we're talking 1 pixel of alignment wrong, and you get an email about it. So that 100 hours that comes from our QA team, which is not a QA team, it's just a team of very hardworking, attention-driven people.
Oh, that's nice to have that. I've been considering for one of our clients, we use HA Proxy, and we have a few web servers behind it. And I have a rule in there that if you have a certain cookie set, that you'll go to another server. So I was considering doing that for basically beta testing. Throw up new code over there, and I can force that cookie into certain users' accounts. Have them hit the new server.
We actually run a system right now that runs on a different subdomain, and you can opt out of the new system's layout. So we ended up migrating everybody over, but there's a little div in the bottom that says, hey, don't like the new style? Click here to use the old style. And that runs completely separate code or separate controllers on the same system. So for us, it's not quite A/B testing because at its core, it's the same functionality. It's just the way that we're displaying it, and then some of the new features are only on the new system.
Right. I really want to get my beta testing in place. Like I said, I have it all working. It's just the code is so tied to the file system where they have people uploading files. So right now on the cluster web servers we have, they're using NFS, which is a big pain in the ass. Just slows things down on the console for us. So
well, file system is simply the worst thing to work with. Every time I have to touch AWS file systems or cloud, any kind of CDN file system, it is a total nightmare. It's a blind push. That's problem number one. It just the assumption that what you wanted to get there got there. It is terrible. And then on top of that, Fly system isn't as intuitive as you would think it is.
I've always had a lot of success with it. I'm pretty happy with it. But
have you used it with AWS?
Matter of fact, we have
nightmares.
We have a nice little system. One of the coolest endpoints I think I've ever created was a stupid endpoint that you could do anything with. We've pushed files to it. We push payloads to it. Everybody loves this endpoint, and it's so simplistic. It's crazy, but I designed it so that you could. One of the definitions when you did a push was you define basically a name of the job. Essentially, is what it is, And so this stupid endpoint, and I call it stupid because it doesn't do anything. It's just an empty endpoint that you can push things to. This stupid endpoint fills up, and then we write jobs based on everything that was pushed to the endpoint. And one of the things that's getting pushed now is our files, our image files, and then it actually queues up on the server, and then the server does a push out to S3, and it works fantastic. I'm real happy with it.
You're happy with it for now, but guess what?
Hmm.
That fly system endpoint uses a now deprecated Guzzle package.
Yeah, we keep a close eye on the Guzzle. Yeah, the Guzzle bit us before.
Yeah.
We're trying to get rid of it, but it's hard finding a solution.
And it's so, I mean, once you have it coded up, it works so well. But it's the fact that they keep changing it underneath you that is so difficult.
I just don't like the fact that when I do a composer install, there's a big red message that says, "Why are you using Guzzle still? Stop using Guzzle. It's Guzzle HTTP now."
Yeah, we've been using Guzzle HTTP for a while. Yeah, that was the first time it bit us. Yeah. So I could use your input on another topic, Thomas. And
Absolutely.
man, we are talking about a lot of development work here. I'm excited about this. John and I had a little bit of discussion, not a big deal, but
Pillow talk, really.
Yeah,
basically.
I expressed to John how I really don't adhere to seeders anymore. Like, I don't see the purpose of having seeders in my repo. What I've been doing lately is I define factories, and then
what you should have done was ask him what he does to find out which one of us is right. Not necessarily right, but just now he knows whose opinion is whose.
I am loving this attention.
Actually, whatever he said would have just proven whoever agreed with him would be wrong, right? I mean, isn't that how it works? But what I was saying,
you're not supposed to say that.
I was telling John, I don't necessarily have seeders anymore. I do create the factories, and then if I need to populate data in a table, I'll go into Tinker and I'll fire off a factory for it. But I really don't like having seeders. And my biggest complaint with it, or my biggest concern, which is really not even, to be totally honest with you, not even justified. It's not even like something that's happened to me in the past. And in talking with John, I'm pretty sure Laravel prevents it from just happening. But I told him I never wanted the seeders there because I never want somebody to accidentally run them in production. And like we were talking through it, I'm pretty sure Laravel...
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, Laravel prevents you from that. But I just told him, I'm like, I don't really have a need for actual seeders anymore. I just don't use them. I just rather run the factories myself by hand.
Well, okay. So the problem one is that you're not differentiating between seeders and factories. You're using factories as seeders. But
this is true.
Seeders are not factory runners. They are not just a pipe to run your factory commands. Seeders can do a huge amount of work. Well, any amount of work. Work that factories specifically can't do. So in my environment, we actually want to use production data for our testing. Now, we don't want to use dangerous production data. We want to use sanitized production data. So we have a source database that we load up and then that we read, and then we read that source database into our factories. So our factories are populated by old data that we clean in our run for seeding. On top of that, we do sample image generation. A lot of pictures on my site. So we generate pictures from a Faker image library that creates pictures of cats and nightlife scenes and things like that. And then we also do a pretty good amount of logic in our seeders. Our seeders almost run as unit tests. So we reference a lot of the logic that we use for transactions in customers to create fake transactions that we use for doing our development testing on reports and things like that. So we're doing quite a bit more than just factory execution. One of the most recent things we did was I had to create a seeder that executed at the end of all of our other seeders to populate some data that was in a pivot table. So I could just create the seeder, tack in some raw DB statements, and that was the end of it. Writing a factory for that would have been completely pointless because it would have taken twice as long and achieved the same thing. So I actually have in my current, my real monolith project, I have about 15 seeders. And they range from just being call the factory and exit to very, very large, communicate with other APIs. We have testing APIs on servers that we communicate with to make sure that our billing system is still functional. We receive successful bill callbacks, things like that. So factories are great. I've been using them a lot, but factories don't cover everything that a seeder needs to do.
So, John, that goes to prove how wrong you are. Thomas agreed. Yeah, I guess I didn't take that. I didn't take that in consideration. I do know that there have been use cases in the past where I've used seeders in the sense where I've populated data in one table and then I've populated data in another table based on information out of that first table, which I could probably still do in factory. I don't know. I haven't had I don't feel like I've been in a position recently where I've had a need for a seeder that I couldn't just create a factory and run it by hand.
See, I still look at seed data in development of when I do a migration, I get my new tables. I seed it with data I need. I often find myself rolling all the way back or doing a reset, getting rid of everything and bringing it back, and I want the data there. I don't want to refresh my database and then have to go run all of these factories by hand.
That's another issue too, is that we have an install command in Artisan. We have a console command that does a flush of the existing database, a flush of all the caches, all the tags, and then it starts to process over our seeders, and our seeders actually use the command line bar graph method. I'm not sure if you've seen that before, but our seeder at this point takes about 10 to 15 minutes to run.
Your seeder takes 10 to 15, or the install takes 10 to 15?
Our seeder takes 10 to 15 minutes to run. So having it report on what it's doing while it's doing it is very helpful. You know, we're generating in the area of 10,000 records with relationships in our seed. So there's a lot, and if I tell it to generate the images with the seed, then it can go upwards of half an hour. So
yeah,
there's definitely a use case. I mean, you know, and Tinker isn't even installed in 5.4 out of the box, although it should be because it's one of the greatest tools Laravel has.
well, it's in the, it's just a separate package, but it's installed out of the box. It's just a separate package.
You have to include it now.
No,
You have to
it's part of the base install. It's in the base install, but it's a separate package.
For our listeners, I'm shaking my head. It's
Well,
not part of the base install anymore.
Well, it's an easy way to find out. Let me see. So I'm going to CD to downloads, and I'm going to do Laravel new. Thomas, don't be right.
Hold on, let me write this down so I can cut this out.
Yeah, you might want to get this. I want to get this time frame here in place. Okay, so it's there. Almost done. I got
do it live.
I'll do it live. All right, hold on. I'm almost there. All right, just about done.
Wait for it.
All right, here we go. We're there. We're done. And done. Okay, so I CD into the directory. You're saying if I type in Tinker, it won't work. Look at that. It works. Huh, imagine that. It's there.
That's 5.4.
Laravel.
I just did a Laravel new. So it's what I tell you exactly what it is. More on JSON, and Tinker is there. It's 5.4, and Tinker is there as a separate package, but it's included in the base.
When I did my upgrade to 5.4, I did not get Tinker along with it. Did you do a create project?
Yeah, I just did a Laravel new.
Yeah, that's why. Laravel new.
But that's not what you said. You said it wasn't included in the base deployment of Laravel, and it is.
It used to be part of the Laravel/Laravel package. Now it's Laravel/Tinker.
It's a separate it's a separate package,
Yes.
which is what I was saying the whole time. But yes, but it's there in the base install.
I will
edit that shit out.
I will edit that so that I'm correct.
And while we're on the topic, we need to get moving along. Laravel 5.4.17 got released. There's a couple new things in there, but nothing groundbreaking. I'm not even sure where I would use some of the stuff.
I'm going to hand this over to you because I don't care about like any of the next 5 tickets.
Right. You talked about doing a refresh, which it's interesting. Taylor posted this in Laravel 5.5. There's actually going to be a Laravel. There'll be a migrate fresh, and the difference between tac fresh and tac refresh. Refresh runs through your migrations and does a rollback. So whatever you have in your rollback, refresh will run the rollback. With tac fresh now, it's just going to truncate the database and get rid of all the tables. It won't try to roll back. And he acknowledges, he's like, a lot of developers don't even use rollback feature in the migration. So you'll now be able to basically wipe away your database with a fresh command. That'll be nice. I do want to kind of start to hustle through some of this stuff because we're getting late, and I do want to give Thomas at least a little opportunity to talk doom and gloom. WordPress, this is interesting. So we talk a lot about WordPress, and we try not to make too much fun about it on this show. We have some WordPress clients, and I've never talked to a WordPress developer who doesn't feel WordPress is a struggle to work with. WordPress, the newest release of WordPress, actually creates JSON endpoints for things like post. And so I saw quite a few articles come by on leveraging frameworks like Laravel and CMS systems like WordPress, and then doing this mashup. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I'm sure they won't regret doing that at all.
I'm sure they will. Okay, PHP Unicorn Online Conference continues to freak me out. I don't know if
it's terrifying.
Dude, look at the speakers. Scroll down, look at the speakers.
Oh my God. No.
Speakers have been announced for the PHP Unicorn online conference. They've got some great speakers. Adam Culp, Adam Wathan, Grumpy.
I would protest to this. If I was a speaker, I would drop out. This is awful.
And what Thomas? You guys should just go. Oh, you're gonna want to edit that out.
No,
you guys should just go to the website and look. But I'll go ahead and give it to you. Each speaker's profile picture has a penis coming out of the forehead. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a unicorn horn. That's what that is. It's a unicorn horn coming out of the. That looks. Adam Culp looks terrifying. So does Grumpy. There's something about the bald head and the unicorn horn.
Christopher Pitt looks like a mugshot, a unicorn mugshot.
You're right. That's like a bad passport photo of a unicorn or something.
Oh God, they really have. They have latched on. I'm hoping that they hear this and that next year they up the frightening level by 10. This is entirely intentional, and they just like tie it in with the release of Stephen King's It. You know,
$100 for a one-day online conference.
Oh wow! I thought it was $50. Maybe that was an early bird. Oh, I think that was an early bird. I
Yeah.
saw a tweet about early bird. $100 for a 1-day online conference. That's
I have a
That's
brilliant
steep.
idea.
That's steep.
See, I would say we should have a PHP Ugly online conference, but they stole our logo for a terrifying, ugly PHP online conference.
I think
It's
we're
nightmarish.
Hey, why don't the organizers have unicorn horns coming out of their head at the very,
Because
very
they're
bottom?
fully aware of what they're doing.
so we're talking to these guys next week on Larachat
Chat.
Our
Live.
chat live.
Yeah, Larachat Live. We're talking to these guys.
Drinking wine tonight. That's a change for you.
I'm out of scotch. I'm very disappointed. You guys had me drink all my scotch. I'm upset about it.
I'm cracking
And
open
now-
my.
Now I'm out of
Correct.
wine.
What about your Diego Dev bottle?
It's still up there.
I'm cracking mine open this weekend.
Oh, you should just
Well,
be aware you won't be getting another one.
So,
Oh,
you included a Pacific Northwest PHP conference on here? Is that recently announced? Because I see it's not until September.
yeah, not until September. So Pacific Northwest PHP conference has been announced. They had a call for papers out there, but then
Still
I
out
tried
there.
I tried to get to the link and it kept redirecting me to Seattle PHP's website. So
That is strange.
the link was cfp.pnwphp.com. Is there another call for papers link on the page? I didn't look.
Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah,
it's the
submit your
same
call for
link.
paper.
Weird.
And it redirects you. Yeah.
Tickets aren't
So
on
I'm not-
sale yet, so we can't give anyone the early bird price.
Yeah, no tickets on sale yet. No, obviously they just have the call for papers out there, so no, you don't know who's speaking. But I'm thinking of trying to get John to go to this one with me because we're looking to open up a donut shop up there. So I need to get John up to the Pacific Northwest and get him appreciating it a little bit.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I might.
Okay.
See, I want
He
to get
says
a
that.
conference I can meet you guys at.
He says that as I literally have on my desk a stack of envelopes going to various government agencies.
Oh God.
Freaking taxes. IRS, Franchise Tax Board, Franchise Tax Board, IRS, Franchise Tax Board.
Yeah.
It's a lot of checks going out.
Yeah.
John's depressing segment.
I was going to say something about conferences. You asked meet us somewhere. I forget. All right, cut all that. Excuse me. All right, you've got about
1 hour, 1 minute, and 58 seconds.
you got no time, buddy. So be selective.
You're still up. Mastodon?
Oh God. Okay, Mastodon. You know what we haven't talked about recently? Another chat client.
Another chat. Yeah. We like chat
Mastodon
clients.
isn't exactly a chat client. I saw it come across my Twitter stream a few times, so I figured I had to check it out. Mastodon is a open source Twitter, a new Twitter that's open source. It seems to have a little traction. I'm struggling with it. I went ahead and signed up. If anybody's interested, I'm Showcom on this thing. It's weird though because you have the ability to spin up a server yourself, or node. They call them nodes. So you have the ability to spin up a node and you join nodes. Like it's kind of like Slack in that perspective, where you join certain Slack groups. Well, in this Mastodon ecosystem, it looks like Twitter. It has a very similar layout to like TweetDeck, but you join specific nodes, and I'm not even sure how you do that.
It's supposed to be a federated system. It doesn't necessarily belong to anybody. It's
right.
They just want it out there.
So it's weird because you join these nodes, you have different streams you can see. So if you're looking at a public stream, you can look at what's called the local stream, which shows you all the Twitter conversation happening on that node. So the idea is, let's say there's a Laravel node. You can actually become a member of the Laravel node, and when you look at the local stream, you see all the conversation happening on that Laravel node. But as John alluded to, it's also federated. So you can also go to the federated stream, and the federated stream is a stream of all the nodes' public streams. So
yeah, I like this idea. I actually really like this a lot. It's gaining a huge following in China because of its sort of distributed nature.
Mm-hmm.
My only issue with it is how well is it actually going to scale? Because right now, when you subscribe, when you get a Twitter API, if you want everything that's sent out, it's called the fire hose feed because it's like drinking from a fire hose. I'm curious to see how this scales out because Twitter, being the billion-dollar business it is, can afford to scale their code. But open source, I don't think anything open source has been tested to a scale like that.
Yeah. And one of the nice things is it calls itself a microblog, not a tweet. So instead of 140 characters, I think you get up to like 500 characters. So you can definitely get a good little portion of conversation in there. I remember when Google, what's the Google one called? Google Plus, right? It's still there. Google Plus is still a thing. Yeah. I got tired of Google Plus because there was no limit, and people were just basically putting these massive posts in Google Plus. And I'm like, I'm not reading all this. You know, it was horrible. So it's good to still see that there's a limit. I'm glad it's over 100. 140 kills me. I wish they would just bump that up a little bit, but 500. I was reading through the public stream, and there was never an opportunity. There was never a moment where I was like, "Oh no, this is too much information." It was just 500 seemed to be like a good number of a small post. It was nice.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited for next year when they announce Usenet. It's got an inherent character limit, distributed network. You can attach images if you UTF encode them or YINC encode them now. It's got a self-filtering system for groups and cross-posting. It's going to be really cool when that finally comes out.
Keep talking, man. You're eating into your own time now.
You're killing it.
All right, hold on. Let me take a pee break. What are we? 106:42. You like seeing me work on this, don't you?
I absolutely love it. You don't know how great it feels. And I take a sick satisfaction knowing you're having to listen to the podcast again.
Oh, I know. I know.
This is awkward.
What am I clicking? What am I making noises with?
I don't know. I don't hear it now. How are you liking the new keyboard?
Meh.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm not a fan of those. I found another one. I meant to send your way to take a look to see if it would be something that would interest you. I'll have to track that one down. There's another one out there I think you'll like. That's cool. I think is quieter.
I'm just leaving notes for myself, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about this next article because it's doom and gloom, but John submitted it.
Yeah, I came across this one. Well, it's interesting. Somebody figured out that you can hack a smart TV over the air. So you don't even have to have access to somebody's internet account. You could drive by their house, send out the signal, basically take control of somebody's TV. And the scary part is once you have high-level access to that, You're
It's
inside
called
the
a
network.
universal. It's called a universal remote. I do it all the time. What do you mean take over the TV?
So a lot of the new smart TVs have browsers built into them, and there are vulnerabilities within those TVs. I think the article that I have is specific to Samsung, but they've shown that it's capable in other smart TVs too. But by sending out this signal, you can basically take over root level access on the TV, and if it's connected to your home network, which it needs to be as a smart TV, they're now inside your firewall and can start running amok. And if your TV has a microphone or a camera, they now have access to that. It's pretty scary.
Wow.
And this really is an Internet of Things problem. One of the things that I have always decried in my doom and gloom is Internet of Things. Why is your washing machine hooked up to the internet? That's how you have arson on a whole new scale. Another example of this was an Internet of Things garage door monitor. So this guy invented GarageIt, which is just an IR camera that makes sure that your garage door is closed. It's Wi-Fi enabled, and you can check if your garage door is closed from your phone. Someone bought one, couldn't get it to work, complained about it on Amazon, and the creator of it just cut off his account. Said, all right, you can't get it to work, fine. We're just going to kill the device altogether. So now he's got a dead device that if he could get working, still wouldn't work because it's shut off from the cloud. And some vindictive guy, instead of providing customer service, just shut the device off that he had paid for. Internet of Things, man. It's bad stuff.
I actually have an issue with this as well because I invested in these Nest cameras, and I went through a whole process of building out some cameras to watch over my house using a Raspberry Pi, and I got a good setup going. But when I did all the math, the whole setup was going to run me around $140 to $160, and these Nest cameras are like $100 a pop. So I'm like, I'm just going to do that. I came to the realization fairly quickly. I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner that with these Nest cameras, it's only good as long as you're paying for the additional Nest service. It's like there's no way to use the Nest cameras to pump a feed into a storage device you might have at your house. So I basically paid, I think $300 because I got 3 of them. I basically paid $300 to continue to pay this company X amount a year to use the device that I just bought from them.
Yeah,
and
I've been doing a lot of research on these cameras myself, and Nest is one of the worst in that their free tier is only good for 3 hours. So you go to work at 8, your house is broken into at 10, you don't have the feed, and when you get home, like, oh crap. Where there's other ones out there that at least give you 24 hours for free, and if you want 7 to whatever a month storage, then you have to pay.
Now, I was fascinated by what Logitech does. Logitech sells security monitoring cameras as well, but instead of a service, these are just IP cams. So they can't say that this camera works with the service only, because to call it an IP cam, you have to say, I can just hook up to it. But what they do is they take the same CMOS sensor and put it in 10 different products, and then they install different firmwares in each of the 10 products and charge for each feature one product at a time. So if you want to get the automated audio and video recording to their free cloud service, then you have to buy the $200 version of their camera. But if you want just the video feed at its lowest quality, then you can buy the $50 camera. but it's the
Which is
same
the same
sensors.
camera.
It's exactly the same camera except for the housing, which looks sleeker the more you pay for it, and the firmware that they install on it.
Yeah.
It's really scummy stuff.
Yeah. I'm still kicking myself over. Honestly, I didn't even realize the free tier had any storage capability. I thought that was just a live feed. So yeah, I'm still kicking myself over the Nest cams. I use them, but yeah, I need to come with another solution. I might go back to my Pi solution and see if I can't get that cost down some.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you've got an IP camera that you can open a port for on your firewall, angelcam.com, which sounds like an adult-oriented site, is actually a pretty good IP cam capture system. They do
I'm in the market.
they do like 4 hours, or sorry, they do like 4 days of continuous video recording for free. So it's a nice service. I've used it for a while and never had any problems with it, except that you just don't get audio. And when your problem is your kids fighting with each other in the living room, the audio is important.
Yeah, I actually just used my Nest camera in such a weird way. We have a Nest camera set up in our living room, which it's set up that way because I work from home, and in my office is kind of away from the back sliding glass door. So in the summertime, when we have the house closed up because we have the air conditioning on, I set up a Nest camera in our living room so that I can see when Yaz, the office manager here, needed to get out back to go to the bathroom. So I played around with it, and now it's set up so that if myself and my wife are not home, it kicks on and starts recording. And I just had never I never unconfigured it. I did it because I was playing around with configuration settings, and I just never undid it. And we just got a new kitten in the house, and our daughter called us the other day, and she's absolutely beside herself because she was panicking that the kitten had gotten out the back door. And so I was able to come home, and I totally forgot that the Nest camera was even running, and it occurred to me, I'm like, hey, the camera should have been on. And I was able to pull up the camera and see the back door the whole time. I'm like, oh yeah, the cat never left the house. It's still in the house somewhere. So
the cat's still inside the house.
It's still in the house. Run!
Yeah, now it's just in the walls.
That was nice.
All right, you guys, it's burn time. We're gonna jump straight into doom and gloom, and I'm gonna burn through these.
You hustle.
We recommend LastPass. We discussed this the last 2 weeks.
I think we all agree it's the best
manager.
password manager.
Everyone here recommends LastPass.
We all are 100% behind that.
We discussed. I'm sorry, John's mic is doing something weird. There's a buzzing.
You can just edit all that out.
I'll just cut that. So we discussed a LastPass vulnerability that was discovered. The patches are out. Go ahead and pop up your LastPass extensions. Make sure that you are running at least version 14.4. Yeah, 14.4. No, I'm sorry, 4.1.44 or higher. Fixes the latest big vulnerabilities. I was close.
No, it's funny. We had a thing at work where I said a number like 8113, and somebody kept saying, "Why are you saying 5 numbers? There are only 4 numbers." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm saying 8113. He's like, "No, you're saying 8113." I'm like, it triggered me, man. I about went off on this person. So when it struck me as funny when you said that. Sorry, you can cut all that.
No, that's going to be our humorous intro. We've talked about this for the last, I think, 4 weeks now. The FCC's regulations on ISPs being able to collect and sell your data. It's officially been signed by Presidente Donald Trump. So that is now in effect. ISPs can collect your information without a warrant, I guess we'll call it. However, in response, we have some great stuff.
A warrant or your approval, either way. Sure.
Um, naturally, the leaders of internet freedoms, porn companies, have started really beefing up their security in advance of these kinds of changes. And
Yep.
stuff like mandatory HTTPS, higher quality certificates, things like that. Now, HTTPS I wanted to get into just for 1 minute. There is a general misconception about the security of post versus get. And I know I'm really preaching to the choir here, but I want everyone to know that on an HTTPS connection, your get variables are encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I spent a lot of time on the internet before I really understood what's going on there. But in an HTTPS connection, anything other than the domain name is going to get securely encrypted and passed unreadably to the destination server. Now, that doesn't
So
account for man-in-the-middle attacks, but man-in-the-middle attacks are a different beast.
So even the web page you're hitting is encrypted.
Yeah, even
Right.
the name of the destination page is going to be encrypted. So really, if you're on HTTPS, you're as secure as you're going to get from a VPN. Now,
Well, not exactly, but yeah.
you're damn close. I mean, you're in the 99th percentile there.
The only reason I say that is with a VPN, it takes you away. So for me, Cox, right? If I go to
Big fan of Cox.
Cox Communication. Yeah. If I go to, like you said, a porn site, even if it's HTTPS, they can still see I'm going to naughtyamerica.com. Let's say I'm sure that's a porn site out there. They can still see I'm going to that.com. They can't see anything about it. Now with a VPN, they couldn't even see that because I'm now doing that traffic from a completely different location. Now that completely different location, if it's being monitored, can see it, but it doesn't know who I am because I VP'd into. So it's a little different, but I understand what you're saying. Yes, it is a secure tunnel that you're browsing.
Except
you think it's a secure tunnel.
Yeah, you really hope it's a secure tunnel. The problem is that in the wake of all of this legal fallout, a lot of fake VPN services have started showing up. Mm-hmm. So I found this story really fascinating because it isn't just about fake VPNs. It's not just that someone created a fake VPN and they're marketing it to people. The issue here is that data from hacked servers back in 2015 and 2014 is being used for very targeted marketing of these fake VPN servers. So back in 2014, Boxy's message board was hacked, and then in 2015, Plex's message board. If you don't know what Plex is, it's a media server. Mm-hmm. So someone went through and purchased for something around $10 all of the email addresses of the Plex forum users, and then crafted an email that said, "Hey, this is Brian with the Plex media team. We wanted to let you know that in the wake of all this legal stuff, we've launched a VPN service. Since you're a Plex customer, we wanted to assure you that your data is safe, et cetera, et cetera." So it's almost spear phishing in its well-written, targeted nature. They're taking the data of where this hacked information came from and using it along with their nefarious services.
That's fantastic.
And we said it last week. If you run into a suspicious email, don't open it. But this is a sort of a new level of attack that takes something that shouldn't be suspicious and piggybacks on that and says, "Hey, yeah, buy our service. We're with Plex and you're a Plex member." So just because somebody knows that you're a member of some service doesn't mean that they're with that service. Don't trust inherently. With a little research, it's easy to find out that these are fake VPN services. there was no actual VPN service to connect to, but by then you've already sent your money. So if you're going to use a
They didn't
VPN,
set up one.
yeah,
I
you could.
Yeah, I assumed they were actually setting up a VPN and then just stealing all your data.
In this case, they weren't. In this case, they hadn't even set up a VPN to bounce anything through. They just took your credit card number under the assumption of $24.95 a year and ran away with your credit card number. So they escalated from having your email address to having your credit card number. But they did a surprising amount of work aside from setting up a real VPN. They set up an 800 number, a reliable sounding domain name with an HTTPS certificate. It just didn't point anywhere. Once you finally got everything subscribed, they said, "Yeah, now your connection's secure. Thumbs up. We did it for you. Don't worry. It's a hands-free." No, it's not. No. But I did want to say on the sides of the story, I don't really recommend a VPN system. I don't really recommend VPNs for safeguarding your information. To me, it is just adding another point of failure. I would recommend running something like NoScript, running something like uBlock Origin, preventing cookies, and then ensuring that you're on secure connections. If you're on a secure connection, odds are you're safe.
You're safe to a point. I mean, your ISP is still collecting information about where you're going. Now, what you're looking at on the sites,
they're catching your domain name,
Yeah.
but
right.
it's from the way things are now. It's hard to make assumptions off domain name.
Also, you've totally brushed over your remote workers who work from coffee shops and things like that, where a VPN's almost mandatory nowadays. That's really the only time I use my VPN is when I'm not at home. If I'm at home, I understand the implications of my ISP being able to grab data, and I'm not happy with it, but I'm not going to stay on a VPN 24/7 either. But when I'm outside the house,
you'll just live with the hand lotion ads popping up everywhere.
Exactly. They pop up now, man. I subscribe to some of those. But if I leave the house, even if I'm going to another person's house, I'll pop on the VPN. And again,
I'm the paranoid one. I'm the tinfoil hat.
Well, and so for things like the Amazon Web Services where we've got firewalls locked down, I can create access from the VPN. So I never know what IP address I'm going to be at. I go to a coffee shop in Arizona. I don't know what the IP address is, but I hop on my VPN and now I have access to my network that's locked down. So there's definitely legitimate needs for it.
And if you're technically inclined, you can create your own VPN pretty easily, which mitigates one of the biggest problems with VPNs, which is performance, latency, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we have a company VPN, and we give certs to any developer who wants an account.
I promised you guys we're going to end on an upbeat note.
Okay.
And in this era of fake news and questionable reporters, or at least editors and owners, I am really proud of citizen journalists.
Mm-hmm.
We have two great stories of citizen journalism this week. The first is high school journalists. So we have a high school journalism team who got a new principal and said, "Hey, let's do a story about our new principal, about where our principal comes from, what her credentials are." But in looking into things, it didn't quite make sense. So after a little bit of digging, it turns out that their new principal had faked her credentials.
Mm.
Hold on 1 second. I just have to verify it is a woman. Yeah, Amy Robertson. So, a few, I believe, weeks after being hired, the principal was forced to resign, admitting that the credentials were not necessarily from legitimate sources and that she was not, in fact, qualified to be a school principal.
Oh no.
I am so proud of this. I'm so proud of student journalists doing real journalistic work that affects them in a real way. I was a student journalist. I think this is the best kind of work, and it's indicates a bright future for journalism in America.
So you gotta talk about the Wired one because I can't look at that one because they don't like people who have ad block software. So they won't.
Oh,
let
you
me
have the wrong ad
they-
block then.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. But what the hell does it say?
Well, Arduino hired a new CEO, and it looks like his academic record might be fudged as well.
Yeah, I hope John never looks into my past.
So this is another journalists doing journalist work. Arduino, which has a really strong, proud history, hired a new CEO, Federico Musto.
Is this
And-
Arduino? Is this the Arduino that's the
microcontroller.
Yeah, this is that?
Yeah, this is that.
Oh, interesting.
So, Musto was brought in recently. However, investigators quickly started looking into his claim of a PhD. His PhD apparently coming from MIT. However, MIT records do not have him listed. Now, that's not conclusive. Of course, records can be wrong, but it is a developing story. He hasn't yet resigned, but I think we can expect it any day now. And it reminds me so much of Radio Shack.
Radio Shack? Why does it remind
Oh,
you of
yeah.
Radio Shack?
Because Radio Shack hired a president of the company who had 100% fabricated his credentials, had never gone to college, had just written a resume, sent it to them, and they accepted it
And made him
as it
CEO?
was. Made him CEO, and he ended up retiring with $2.5 million because that was part of his contract for hire.
Oh god.
I
And
need
then
to work on
oddly
my
enough-
contract, or on my,
Oddly enough,
resume.
they went out of business shortly later, and then this month went out of business again.
He went out of business again? I think
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have a Radio Shack here in Poway. I need to see if he's still there. I know he made it through the first out of business thing. It's a independently owned Radio Shack, so he claims that he does well enough in business that he's fine. So I wasted a lot of my childhood between Radio Shack and comic book store. Man, I tell you, those two places.
I don't think it was
So
wasted.
Radio Shack had the robot arm thing that you could control.
I had one of those robot arm things.
Yeah, it's the best.
I think I still have it actually. I think it's out in my garage. I love that thing.
Here's my life. I
It was-
watched a
it was my
half-hour
first
YouTube
girlfriend.
video.
Wow. What are we?
That might
are we
explain
like
the YouTube
2
video
hours
I
into
watched.
this thing?
I watched a half-hour YouTube video of a man restoring a Radio Shack robot arm.
Yeah. Yep. Fun.
All right, guys, what did I tell you? I told you upbeat news, citizen journalism.
That was
Know your journalists.
upbeat news to you. You really should look at
Yeah,
the definition of upbeat news.
that's
Hey, Eric.
expulsion of the bourgeoisie.
John,
Eric, I want to go to a baseball game this season. I spent
I will.
I spent an hour today on
Because he's
YouTube.
not allowed to go to Ultimate Frisbee anymore.
I spent I spent an hour today watching some YouTube clips of like amazing plays.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
now it has me wanting to
think-
go.
I think Diego Dev needs season tickets, man. But yeah,
Well, that's the trick is you have to look at the year that each one of those amazing plays was because it's one a year.
no, it's
Yeah.
not. Every year is great baseball. Okay, guys. Well, that was a very long show. I'm so happy to hear that Thomas has taken over the.
Don't say it's a
Editing.
long show. I'm going to cut it down.
I know
That was an
I'm happy.
excellent show.
It was a great show. Lots of coding talk. I felt we had been going away from talking about coding and getting more into the news stuff, and I don't. It wasn't what I was looking for. So
Eric
happy
doesn't
that
like
we
the doom and gloom.
I don't like
We need to
the.
cut, we'll cut that down a little bit more next time.
Okay, everyone. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Thanks everybody for listening. Episode 56 of PHP Ugly. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
All right, everybody. Well, I think that's it. I'm going to wrap the show up. This has been episode 56 of PHP Ugly. I'm Tom Rideout.
You already got
All
all
right,
the
good work,
listeners.
guys.
You can
Good work,
edit
guys.
that.
No, good work, guys. We nailed it. It's a good episode.
Are you saying I'm a dick? Is that
One
that
for the
your
re-
way
no,
of saying?
no. I'm saying I'm a dick. I'm 100% taking credit for what you said. I transcribed and repeated, and I'm taking credit for it.
Okay, so my only. All right, everybody can stop their recording. We don't need
Let's
that.
go off air. Go off air.
Oh Jesus! Where's Zencaster?
Back again.
Boop.
I always have to restart my upload, by the way.
You know,
So
I'm
annoying.
I think I'm gonna turn that wave off because they never come through. Like all three wave files never come through. There's always one of them that's messed up. So I end up sending the MP3s over anyways. So I need to just turn that off. And it's the wave files what we're waiting to upload. The wave file records locally and then uploads, but it just
Whoa!
doesn't
I
work.
just lost you guys so bad.
I don't know.